aside, there is one thing I did want to talk about, because once again, sleeping problems, not so much energy I have. I didn't stream Friday because it was a lot worse, and Saturday I wanted to finish the recent story quest in Zenless, so we didn't get a chance to talk to it about it. But the Game Awards, I want to talk about that today. I guess we'll start with like the award show itself. Still has the same issue it usually has. It was way too long than it needed to be. Not as long as last year's. I think last year's was like 4-ish hours. This was like 3 hours and 30 minutes. One of those things, I didn't watch it when it happened live because for me it was like at midnight and I'm not staying up that late with all the sleeping problems. So obviously I didn't stay up. I watched it the next day. One of those things, kind of thank God, because the minute the Muppet stuff started, I was like, I'm skipping this. This is going to be... cringe is the best word. Like, it just felt so out of place. It's just like, what are you doing, Jeff Keighley? I get, like, he's a fan of it, but, like, there's a line between, like, being a fan of something and thinking, does this actually fit this thing you're doing? I did see some of the jokes about Jeff Keighley fucking Miss Piggy, so that was a laugh. As far as winners goes, there wasn't any ones I felt like were snubbed from the awards. I think the only one I could think of was probably the Arc Raiders winning. Because the problem the Game Awards always has is a lot of it ends up being recency biased. A lot of the winners tend to be games that came out a couple of months before the Game Awards. And I feel like that was kind of the case of that. I don't play many multiplayer games, but I felt like I saw more people talking and playing peak. So that one win just felt very, very odd to me. As far as like a Game Awards wins goes. The other thing is like I really wish he would just stick it as an award show and not a game announce. He has two throughout the rest of the year. I get at the start when he just had that, but like it should be award show. And it was kind of annoying. They do this every year, where they have like tons of awards, but then they just do a quick fire round of tons of awards. I get for like maybe esports and best mobile games, because most people wouldn't care about that, but the other ones, no. Like Silksong won an award. I think it was like best action RPG or something. Wouldn't have been cool if they could have had a speech. But no, we need to cut that down because we need to have all these game announcements. I said this before. I think the Game Awards should stick to the award show, and if you want to do game announcements, have 3. 1 at the start, 1 in the middle, and 1 at the end. But I get partly why. This thing is expensive, and if he only has 3 announcements, most people might not want to tune in. But if you have dozens of announcements, people are more likely to tune in. But yeah, like it was just kind of like okay, I guess. Which now I think, oh yeah, and obviously Expedition 33 won pretty much everything they win. I think the only award they didn't win in was Best Sound Design, and technically some of the awards they were nominated was nominated twice in Best Performance, because you had Ben Starr and Jennifer English in both of those. Well deserved, obviously, all the awards, because Expedition 33 was my game of the year this year as well, and was one of my games. It's now on my list of favorite games of like all time. My brain went dead again. Which was cool, because I went through like a weird worry about the award shows being buyed out by AAA companies for like 2 reasons. One was last year's winner, which is the first time that I ever felt like a game didn't deserve a win. No offense to Astrobot, but it definitely won Game of the Year. Like I still don't understand like that one. It's just like, it's an okay game, but Game of the Year? Like, that is the only one in the 10 plus years Game Awards has been around. That is the only time, even if I didn't play a game, I didn't, because there's definitely one that I didn't play but still understood why it won. Like 2022, God of War Ragnarok was my Game of the Year. and it didn't win. But I understand why Elden Ring won, because I was like, yeah, there was no shot that anyone else was going to win but Elden Ring that year. But last year, and then there was the whole thing with the Golden Joystick Awards, where they had their Game of the Year announcements. We had none of the big games that have been talked about through this year. You know, Expedition, Hades 2, Kingdom Come 2, and Silksong. And then they released their Ultra Game of the Year list, which was, I wonder if they added that because they saw the backlash. Just saying. But it got me worried that the AAA space was so afraid of indie games taking, you know, center stage and growing in popularity, that they didn't want them to have more popularity, because it would force them to actually do something fucking creative with their IPs and stuff. But frankly, I guess it was a stupid overreaction, because Expedition won, and it is wild still to think about, because like I said, the problem the Game Awards does tend to have is recency bias. A lot of the games that tend to win, and that's probably why Astrobot won it, really, because it was like, it came out like 2-ish months before the Game Awards. But that's like possibly the first time I can think of off the top of my head, that a game that came out at the beginning of the year, not the first time, but it's very rare that it happens, but especially with an indie game, they came out at the beginning of roughly around the beginning of the year, because it was like April, and still won all those awards because of just how amazing it is. But yeah, the other thing is now the game announcements. There was a lot of game announcements, so I just jotted down ones that piqued my interest personally. One of them is the Divinity game, which is the next game from Larian Studios, who did Baldur's Gate 3, which they've done the Divinity series before in the past. I didn't know that until after Baldur's Gate 3. Most likely isn't going to be out until a while, to be fair, because like a CG trailer always indicates this game's probably far out, but still cool to, I guess, see it. Then there was the Covenant of the Chicken Foot, which piqued my interest because it's the lead director for it is the person who worked on, I think it's Bruce Straley, his name is, who worked on like things like The Last of Us, Jack and Dexter, and the Uncharted series, and it doesn't look like anything like that. It gives me like, because you're an old lady with this like, I think it's supposed to be like a witch or something, and it's like very puzzly and like cell shaded kind of look, very stylistic, which I do like, with this weird like goofy like monster thing that helps out. It reminds me of The Last Guardian, which I quite like. The Last Guardian. But I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I mentioned one of the ones I listen to. Well, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a handful of podcasts, so I don't have the time anymore. But my brain went dead. My brain went dead. I was listening to a podcast, which was a video game podcast. My brain went dead again. It was a video game podcast that does game. It's kind of fun at Games Daily. They do like daily news, and they had him on. He was talking about how much he wanted just to make a game that was creative. That's something that he was you know, something that was not necessarily different, but it was just like cool to see a game developer who wants just to make something, because that's what games should be. Should be making something that you have an idea for and you just want to make that idea happen. You know? But yeah, that was the one that I think we'll go through all of these before, but that one's like quite interesting. The other one was, well, it wasn't a new one because a lot of the announcements were just stuff we already knew about, but we saw more of Resident Evil Requiem, which I kind of skipped over the trailer because I didn't need to see any more. Because I know I'm gonna play it, so I don't need to see more of it. But they did announce Leon's going to be in it. He's like 51 or something in this. So So I feel like shocked how good he looks when he's in his 50s. And stuff. But his is going to be the more action orientated, and the other character is going to be more horror orientated. So that's going to be fun to see how that plays out. The other thing was not necessarily a game, but a movie announcement, but still video game adjacent. Was Street Fighter. Oh wait, no, there wasn't. Let's click the way. There was another award I just remembered. There was Best Adaptation, and The Last of Us Part 2 won that, which I thought was going to be the Minecraft movie, because that's another one where I thought, like, I didn't personally see either, but I swear I saw more people talk about that than The Last of Us Season 2. Anyway, but there was the Street Fighter movie, which looks neat. And the only Street Fighter game I played was like 2. Not when it originally came out. I'm not that old. But it looks interesting. It looks like, judging from because there's not much to go off, they're kind of keeping with like it kind of has like somewhat of a cameo vibe, because the outfits look almost like exactly the same from the games. They don't like try and change it or make it look gritty or anything. It's like, no, we're just fucking leaning into this sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I don't know if I'll go and see it, because I said not a huge Street Fighter fan, so I don't really know, but we'll see. The other thing is that there was new Tomb Raider games announced. I've never actually played Tomb Raider games. I don't know why. When I was a kid, the original one never really grabbed me. And someone who's played Uncharted, and this year you played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I've wanted to get into playing those. And they announced a new one. And I know people can hate for saying this, but it gives very Uncharted vibes. I know Uncharted was inspired by it, but it does. But the other interesting thing is that they announced a second one, because that's not until 2027, but they announced a second one that is a reimagining of the original game. Not a remake, a reimagining, which sounds kind of interesting, even though I've never played them. Because one thing I was thinking about next year, because I was waiting for these announcements to happen, depending when this remake or reimagine of the original comes out, we might play the original Tomb Raider games, because I've never played them. They're pretty much, there was like this year released like a collection or something that has 1 to 5 of the original games. I think the one that's the first one is because I know there's like a PS2 remake. It might be. I might need to look at the collection to remind myself. We might play for those, and maybe, because those old games are short as hell, so we could blast through them like no time. But that was like interesting. It was actually like, ooh, there was one that was kind of cool, but kind of I think it got written down. It's Orbius, I think. It's a game that has like 80s anime art style. It looks cool. The disappointing thing is it's a co-op game, and I don't have anyone to play with. So it's like, oh, that's neat. Oh, no one to play with. But yeah, those are basically the ones that piqued my personal interest. The only thing I will say is that they ended it with a hero shooter. Was it like a High Guard or something? I was like, I mean, hero. Do you know what it feels like with these sudden explosions of hero shooters? Because Overwatch is slowly declining popularity. Everyone just thinks, oh fuck yeah, we're gonna release our hero shooters now, and we could dominate the market. Look at Marvel Rivals. No offense to Marvel Rivals, but let's be honest, it was popularity because it's Marvel. Most people aren't going to jump on a immediately new hero shooter, and it's just like, really, you're ending it with a hero shooter? Because the point is, the slots just going are based on who pays the most, and it's clearly they paid the most to have that. And it's because like that makes so much sense to say for like the middle of the announcement. It's not your final announcement, but that's the kind of thing we need to go in with these sort of things. I've said this enough times, but ever since the Nintendo did those Nintendo Directs, tons of companies have realized, oh wait, hold the fucking phone. We can just do our own Directs and not have to share the limelight with anyone. we're never going to see these big announcements that we're hoping for because they could just announce it. Because one of the ones was like Half-Life 3. Valve could just announce it themselves. Hell, they could just make it a fucking blog post and it will fucking blow up. They don't need Jeff Keighley. That's the thing. That's why E3 eventually died off, because companies realized, oh wait, we don't need these people. We can just do it ourselves. And I doubt we'll ever get like those huge, because they can just announce it themselves. They can just do a showcase and here's our big thing. Not have to share the limelight, because that's the kind of the issue with like E3. Because if someone had like a bigger announcement than anyone else at the end, everyone will be talking about that and no one else's. Like, let's use an example of this. I've done this before, but we'll use this example. Let's say at the start, Microsoft announces, I don't know, let's go with the Fallout 3 remake or remaster. That'll get a lot of attention. A lot of people are, whoa! Let's say in the middle, Sony announces, I think what game people wanted them to announce for a while. I don't know, maybe more of Naughty Dog's new game. Like, we got gameplay of what's it, Intergalactica, and it's like, oh wow, that's so cool. And then by the end of it, Nintendo announces, hey, we're remaking Ocarina of Time in glorious detail and all this stuff. Everyone will be talking about Ocarina of Time, and the two other announcements would probably just be drowned out by that. This is why these companies will just rather announce them themselves rather than being part of these showcases. Why most of them tend to be either things we already know about, or end up being my brain went dead. My brain went fucking dead. Or third party stuff, or indie stuff. Oh, there was another one I didn't write down. Pragmata was that shit there, and that's another game that I'm actually interested, because it's like, it's actually something different from Capcom. It's them actually making a new IP, which people still seem to think it's some weird like new version of Mega Man or something. And yet they announced a Mega Man game, so I doubt it, but people still think it is.